Chabad takes it away. It's not right. It's not a Chabad concept. No, it is a Chabad thing. Why is it Chabad? What happened in the story? So, why is the Chabad? Because the story had the Rebbe Rashab tells his son what happened on Shabbos. Shabbos, my father, he passed away, the Rebbe Malach, tells the Rebbe Rashab, he tells his son, since you worked so hard, I want you to pick you up to show you, to come with me, I will bring you to somewhere. He takes him to the Gan Eden. And the Rebbe Rashab explains to his son, the Rebbe Rashab was extremely good with art, they explain something very, very detailed. And he shows and explains to his son the Gan Eden, in the top Gan Eden, the lower Gan Eden, and he explains everything with details. Like it's a physical place. Gan Eden, you know, it's a spiritual thing, like a physical thing. And he says it was over there, the students of the Maggid, and the ladies were over there, was a section for the ladies, and the students of the students of the students. And he told the Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov at that time was his birthday, Elul, the Shabbos. So he is the guy that says the Torah by the Gan Eden. So you will head over all these students with other people. And the Rebbe and explained the pasuk by Kisavaya was the whole idea. And the Rebbe Rashab tells his son, it was like a hakel. It was a hakel. It was a gathering from many generations. So the Rebbe explains, what means a hakel for many generations? Ladies and men, what's so important to explain all the details? Because when the Baal Shem Tov was alive and he said Torah, his Talmidim heard the Torah. So their Torah, the Baal Shem Tov, Talmidim heard this Baal Shem Tov. Their Talmid Baal Shem Tov. The Torah was after the Baal Shem Tov passed away, that's not their Torah. This is the Torah only was given over and was heard and was pushed down to the Rabbi. So the Rabbeim, the Torah after the passing of the Baal Shem Tov, this is the Chabad Torah. And this is Torah that we have to follow. And what is the Torah? The Baal Shem Tov style was like from above down. He used to make a miracle. People need something, he makes them. It's called Rabbi Shkem. He does miracles. So by doing the miracles, he takes a Jew that doesn't believe in anything, or maybe believes, but he does not know anything, and he takes him, by making him a miracle, this Jew suddenly believes a God. And he feels there's a God, and not only feels, he could go to another person and tell him, you don't believe there's a God, I will tell you there's a God. By me it happened that I had agency, and now I feel, I know there is a God. And he could go further. But everything, this is from above. So things change. My physical feeling, not this, only the essence of me feels there is a God. My physical thing, when it comes to daily life, the regular behavior during the day, I will not do things. This is not so important. Aminia, not so important. There is Aminia. We come a little bit later. We are Abraham. It's everything. It doesn't come down in all the parts of our body. It comes up only comes down in some parts of our body. This is the Baal Shem Tov. Came the Alter Rebbe, and he brought the other point exactly the opposite. It's not enough by having it from above. Miracles. Miracles are a good thing. The Alter Rebbe also made a miracle, but this is not what the Alter Rebbe is. The Alter Rebbe forced the Chassidim, the Talmidim, and if you would punish them, and he said, you're not going to come to me. They had to sit and learn chassidus till their brain understands it. It affects their knowledge, and from the brain it goes into their physical feelings. So when they walk in the street, they feel there is a God, not they know there is a God. Right. And this says the Rebbe. This is the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe are the same day specifically. That's from the above down and from down up, and between two people together. This is only could be the ultimate point. And after when the Baal Shem Tov passed away, when there's the Alter Rebbe, and he brought the Torah from the Baal Shem Tov from the Milo and brings it down, and the older Rabbeim later continued further, this is the point for us. So when we do something, Elul, we Farbrengen, it's something, it's not only a Farbrengen in a way that, okay, tomorrow I'm the same person like today. There's no change. There's a story with the Rebbe, a chassidus. I don't remember who the person is. I think maybe Dershowitz, I'm not sure. That he came to the Rebbe in chassidus, and he was by the Rebbe for many hours. Like an hour and a half, like a long time, really long time. But regular Rebbe chassidus was passed by people. And he got tired because the Rebbe said through the night, he needs something. 3 o'clock, I don't know what time it was. He got tired. So instead of saying, Rebbe, we should finish it, he says to Rebbe, you know, it's the late night of the hour, it's already late a little bit the hour, we should maybe stop it over here. Before the Rebbe was very friendly, suddenly the Rebbe got very, very serious, and the Rebbe said, if tomorrow you get up is the same thing like today, I wasted my time. The Rebbe did not say people things like this to people. It was a waste of my time. Because when you come up and bring in Chayel and you feel really, I need to be not only in spiritual way of knowledge, there is some God and there is a God, and we know there is a God. But when I walk in the street and I see something and I feel maybe I should be scared, no. I should feel that I'm not scared. There is a God. I don't think twice. There is a God. And this is when it comes to the chassidus in the brain, and when it comes to the feelings, a person could walk and have life and still know there is a God, even though the physical way is opposite. So L'chaim, we should not only talk like this, we should feel it. I talk like this, now we have to feel it. So then you're going to bring to make it to feel it too. That's your turn.
You know, the Indian, by a Farbrengen, we all know what it says. It says that a Farbrengen can do things that Malach Mechoyel can't do. If you want something, if you need something for yourself, for someone else, for Yidden Bichlal, you sit and you Farbrengen. There was an interesting Indian today by Shul. So after the minyan, we finished davening. On the way out, I saw a chassid, a Lubavitcher, mamish, and he was sitting with another Lubavitcher. And I went to both of them, and I said, we're having a Farbrengen by my place. I really want to see you there. So the one, he didn't say anything. But the other one said, looked at me, he said, not likely.
Not what?
Not likely.
Not likely.
Oh.
And I looked at him. I mean, he's a younger man. You know, to say it to someone my age like that, it's a chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
The question was, it was a chutzpah de kedusha or chutzpah umat zois?
We're Shuklim.
And I said, well, I saw an email. I didn't realize that my dear friend Rabbi Levin sent out an email for this Farbrengen. I saw our email that there was a Farbrengen by Bais Bezalel. And it says, "B'tzedek tishbor amisecho." In righteousness you judge your fellow. So I said, he's going to go to the Farbrengen by Bais Bezalel. That's why it was not likely. Because you didn't want to leave one Farbrengen to go to another. You said, it's a Farbrengen. You mashkia, you invest your kishkas in a Farbrengen. It's not something you come and you just eat and you potpet it. You talk to someone else about what happened, about politics. That's not what it's about. Farbrengen is about investing your kishkas with other Yidden. Taking l'chaim so you can say things that normally you wouldn't say. Not to blabber, but to bring out the pnimius. I found out that my dear friend Rabbi Levin sent out an email for this Farbrengen. So, well, you're not going to that Farbrengen. And then I thought, so what's going on with this chassid? A Lubavitcher chassid. Mamish, full bore. Kapata, I happened to learn a sikha with my chavruso, a Velvel Karp. We learn every night on Zoom. And the Indian that was by the Rebbe's, it was a Kisavo Chayol Sikha, Chayol Yud Tes. It's a combination of two Farbrengens by the Rebbe, two Sikhas, Lamed and Lamed Gimel. And the Rebbe starts by saying that there's got to be a connection, obviously, between the Parsha, because Chayol always falls either right before or after or on the Parsha. So he says there's always a connection. What's the connection? Kisavo. When you come into the land, virashto, vishavto, you possess it, you you settle it. Then you do the bikurim. Then you bring your first fruits. One explanation could be that the individual, when the individual yid comes in as B'nai Yisachar, B'nai Levi, B'nai Vos, once you get your land, you bring bikurim as a prat, as an individual. But Rashi then comes and says, no, it's after Kivsha V'chelko at the Aretz. It's after you conquer the land and you divide it up. So when does that happen? We know it only happened after 14 years, but it happens only after every single part of Eretz Yisrael is available. So those who had their land, either Me'ever HaYarden or within Eretz Yisrael, even though they had received their possession, they couldn't bring Bikurim because there were Yidden that still hadn't gotten their piece of Eretz HaKodesh. So Rashi explains it's not about the prat. Bikurim only becomes a mitzvah that's chal alecho after every single yid. In other words, you're not a prat, you're part of the klal. You're part of Am Yisrael. There's obviously a tension between the two. It doesn't have to be, but for me it is. If I had my druthers on my own character, I wouldn't daven by a minyan, I certainly wouldn't Farbrengen, but I Farbrengen by Shabbos. Any excuse to sit in Farbrengen, ad mincha I'll Farbrengen. Do I want to? No. My wife, my kids will tell you I'm asocial. Leave me in my room, my books, my whatever it is, leave me alone.
Don't believe that.
You can ask my son, he's out there cooking. The fact is, my son's a cheverman, I'm not. But that comes to this tension between the prat and the klal. As an individual, we all have our own inyanim. But we're part of klal, we're part of Am Yisrael. Am Kadosh, Am Kishoyedef, all the expressions. When Hasidim come to sit in Farbrengen, it eviscerates, if I can use a fancy English term, it mivatel, it eliminates this tension altogether. Because when you go to a Farbrengen, you're there as a prat, as an individual. But you're there because of the klal. You're there because you're part of Am Yisrael, you're part of a nash. You can't have this without at least another yid, a bottle of mashka and chamutz, a pickle. That's required for Farbrengen. At least one other yid. And if you can have 3, alachat kama v'kama. And if you can have a minyan, alachat kama v'kama. And if you can have more than a minyan, even more so. You can't replicate this. This isn't something that you can even talk about. Because after you get done with the Farbrengen and you start, my wife always used to ask me, and I'd come back from the Farbrengens by Tzemach Tzedek. She said, no. What was the Nakuda? I'd say, I don't know. If you weren't there, you can't explain it.
It's like
That's
Woodstock.
what a Farbrengen is.
It's like Woodstock. If you remember it, it means you weren't there.
So when this chassid tells me, not likely, what is he saying? I'm a prat. I'm an individual. I'm not part of the klal. Or he says, okay, I'm part of the klal, but the tension is too great. I have other things to do with my life. I have to stay home. I have to go to an anniversary with my wife. On Chai Elul, you can have an anniversary with your wife. But after the anniversary, you should come. And I'm expecting him to come. I'm not going to mention that.
It's Yossi Reber's anniversary today.
You see where he is? You You see where this gentleman is? Time.
Cheap date.
When we sit together as Yidden, we each have, and that's why Nichnas Nayin Yotzei Soid. I can be an individual, but it allows me to be part of the cloud, which against my will. But when I'm in a Farbrengen, it's not against my will. Right before I go into the Farbrengen, it's against my will. When my wife tells me you got to do this and do this for the Farbrengen, it's against my will. I say, you do it. My son will do it. He's going to cook. Afterward, I'll say, why did I do that? I could have done so many other things. But when you're at the Farbrengen, the klal and the plot come together in a synergy, using another fancy term, of modern contemporary society, in which there's no tension. We're all just a nash. We're chassidim. Even him. Chaim.
Oh, Ronnie, Chaim Aracha. What even him? He's a big chassid. Chaim Aracha.
Especially him.
Absolutely.
What's the Baal Shem Tov? Nigga Baal Shem Tov. How's the Baal Shem Tov go? Chaim Aracha.
Rocky, you know this Hail Chiyid? Dr. Ram? You know this Hail Chiyid, Ram? No, this one over here.
This guy?
This guy, Dr. Ram. Excuse me, sir. Don't let him leave. You were talking to him, I thought you knew. L'chaim. The Mara Dasra is going to bring over a beautiful Devar Torah.
Mara Dasra, is he paying the bills?
Let's say give a bracha to our Chveirach Sanya. Should be a schus for you and your wife and your family for all good, begashmis of ruchnius, and should see many simchas here until the simcha of the Gula Mitzvah Shleim with Mashiach. L'chaim Aracha.
L'chaim Yecheskel.
I heard a story today.
Barbecue.
I heard a story today. Rabbi Shem Tov from Arizona was here today for a bris. He told me a story that he heard himself from a Zalman Duchman Ol V'Shalom. Rabbi Zalman Duchman is the grandfather of Mendel Duchman from Los Angeles, and he told the Rebbe that his name is Zalman. He was born on Chayel. He was Bris Chayel, remember? And at that time, no one knew that Chayel was the birth of Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Greenberg mentioned that Chayel was a simcha by all Chassidim. But the truth is that no one knew before the Frierdiker Rebbe revealed it that the 18th of Elul was the birthday of Baal Shem Tov. No one knows it. The whole Messiah, the whole tradition that Chayel is a day of celebration is only a Chabad tradition. It's something that everyone knows now today, but it comes something that was revealed. Hey, you look awesome, man. Right. Come have a seat.
Hi guys.
By the way, they have medium rare there.
Medium rare.
Medium rare.
I like medium. I don't like
Good shoes. Good shoes.
I left mine in the car. Thank you.
Just remember to give it back. That's my special.
I might steal it. There's no guarantee there, but I'll try.
So he told the Rebbe that he was given the name Shner Zalman not because he was born in Chayel, but because his parents just chose that name. Not because today is the birth of the Alter Rebbe who has the same name, but because his parents just happened to choose that name. So the Rebbe didn't agree. The Rebbe said, "V'neshama knows." That means although his parents didn't know why they gave that name, but their neshama knew that today is a day of Chayel, today is a day that's connected to the Alter Rebbe, and somehow their souls knew that therefore they gave the name to their son, Shner Zalman. In a similar way, Rabbi David was saying how he was interested in creating a Farbrengen, and he had his own challenges making a Farbrengen. But and all of us have our own challenges ourselves, all kinds of things which we think we're supposed to be somewhere else, a different place, a different time, doing something else. But there are neshamas. We're here because we have a connection. We have a connection. There's something in us that tells us that this is where we need to be right now. This is Chayel. This is a day of celebration. This is something which I need to be here. Something that I need to be here because it's something which helps me. So I want to share with you something that I heard today which helped me, and hopefully it'll help you as well. Something very powerful in very not something that David will like, but there's a Farbrengen, there's a lot, it needs that flavor. So not everyone likes their flesh medium rare. Some people like it well done. But I think it's something that we could all get chayis from. Some people think that tonight's not the 18th of El. Some people think tonight's the 19th of El. Actually, right before I came, I saw the Rebbe says that the night after Chayel is very connected to the 18th of El.
Is connected
to the 18th of El, because by karbonis, by sacrifices, the halacha is that the sacrifices were offered by day, and they were burned the night afterwards. So by all holy things, the night after is associated with the day itself. It's especially true in the 18th of El, because the 18th of El is about chayis, about life, about energy, about not just what we're doing, but what we're thinking, what's in our mind. Reb Meir gave me some criticism for using secular references, but he's not listening now, so it's okay. But you know, Babe Ruth, before he would go out to bat, he would point to which field he's going to knock the ball out of. So now we're starting off a new year. The 18th of El corresponds to Rosh Hashanah of this coming year, Rosh Hashanah this past year, and this is the day when we're able to get the trajectory of where we want to hit the ball, the world, this year. Today's the day we swing and we set the tone for where things are going to go this year. Where are we going to have not just what we're going to do, but where are we going to live? Where are we going to breathe? Where are we going to be animated from?
One second. The rabbi needs to do a chaim. Rabbi Reber. Chaim. I don't want to see that cup. That's very nice wine. Don't waste that wine. You're not leaving until that's wine. Chaim.
There was a great chassid who was a teacher of 3 Rebbes.
One second. Rabbi Greenberg needs to do a chaim. One second. Rabbi Greenberg needs a Bissell Geller for Rabbi Greenberg, Rabbi Newman. Now we can hear the hemshech. You see?
Here's an idea that I think will help us, will animate our past year, animate where we are right now, and animate where we need to get to.
What's that? Your friend said L'chaim. You have to zok L'chaim with him.
L'chaim.
Chaim l'racha.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
Get this on camera.
Oh,
L'chaim.
Baruch Hashem, Josh is doing really good. Baruch Hashem. Josh made one major inner challenge in himself last week, and God has given him lots of blessings since he did that. God should continue to bless you.
I got rid of my shiksa girlfriend, guys.
Chaim
That's a bracha. The big bracha.
And I got an amazing job. I really do.
Pass some of those brachas to the rest of us.
Now I just need the acting career to take off. I think it will, but
you need to find a Jewish girl. Because you're acting.
That's what I got you for. You're the matchmaker. He's the matchmaker. I don't need to find one.
Anyways,
find it for
Josh,
put it all on him. He's got big shoulders.
Literally.
Chaim l'rach.
L'chaim. That's good.
The Rashbatz was a very, very great genius. He was a teacher of the previous Rebbe, a teacher of the Rebbe Rashab, a teacher of the Rebbe Marash. He was someone who was gifted with diamonds in his mouth. He was such an incredible teacher. And he was once asked if he was speaking once at a Farbrengen, and it was so interesting what he was saying, it was so brilliant what he was saying. Somebody asked him, did you ever make a mistake in your life? Ever make a mistake? So he said, yes, I made a mistake. What was the mistake that I made? The mistake that I made was that I didn't properly estimate my abilities. So everyone thought he meant that he exaggerated his abilities. He thought that his talents were greater than what he thought they were. But he explained, no, I underestimated my abilities. Huh? I underestimated. I am really a lot better than what I thought I was. Really, I have a lot more to myself. I have many more gifts than I thought I did. So the Rebbe Rashab was told, I think by the previous Rebbe, about what he said. And the Rebbe Rashab said these words. He said, what he said is the path of Teshuvah. What he said is pure chassidus. That's the path of chassidus. And only with this can you go to Teshuvah. Only with this, knowing your abilities, knowing your strength, knowing who you are, knowing your goodness, can you do Teshuvah. Now, it seems the opposite. If I know my faults, I can do Teshuvah. Why do you say only if you know your abilities, only know your strength, you can do Teshuvah? What does that mean? It's very hard for people to identify with their strengths. Imagine if we asked everyone here to say what their talented is. And I asked Rav David, what's your greatest talent? I don't want to say my talent. That's arrogance, right? People have a hard time.
I don't think we have that issue.
You want me to start?
He's not going to stop.
I think that most people would be uncomfortable to share what they think they're talented and what they're gifted in. We know why the people would be uncomfortable. It seems like we'd be uncomfortable because I know this certain teacher that he always asks his class, and he starts a new year, he asks his class, write down 5 things you're talented in. And one boy, he asked the class, how come everyone have such a hard time saying their talents? And one boy said, I'll tell you why it's so hard for everyone to say their talents. You know why it's so hard? Because if the Yetzer Hara would have a much harder time if we knew what our talents were. If we would acknowledge our gifts, if we would acknowledge what our strengths are, the Yetzer Hara would have a much harder time. Because therefore, Yetzer Hara doesn't want us to acknowledge our inner goodness. Because if we knew how good we were, the Yetzer Hara would have a much harder time. Therefore, he wants to discourage us from knowing what our talents are. That's the meaning of this week's Torah portion. There's a word in this week's Torah portion called Vidui Meiser. Vidui Meiser means you have to give a confession to God. What's a confession to God? The confession to God is, I did exactly what you told me to do. I didn't transgress your commandment, I did exactly what you told me to do. Why is that a confession? That's not a confession. Confession, this is a lawyer over here. A confession means when you admit guilt.
First of all, lawyers never confess a thing. And we never advise our clients to confess a thing.
I saw a picture once.
That's why you're a rabbi and I'm a lawyer.
So there's no such thing as saying I did the right thing, and that's a confession. The Torah calls Vidui Meiser. And every 3rd and 6th year of the Shemitah cycle, you go to the Bais Hamikdash and you say to Hashem, I gave the Meiser to the Levi, I gave the gift to the Kohen, I gave what I need to bring to Yerushalayim, I brought Yerushalayim, I didn't forget anything, I did the right thing, and that's your admission to Hashem. Why is that admission? That's you're validating, you're patting yourself on the shoulders, boy, you did good. Why is it called an admission? And the answer is that in order for us to be able to make a step forward, we have to acknowledge how special and how wonderful we are. That's a path of chassidus. That's a path of Baal Shem Tov. When you make a mistake, what happens when you make a mistake? Everyone makes mistakes. What happens when you make a mistake? You know what happens as soon as you make a mistake? When you make a mistake, every mistake blemishes the neshama. How does it blemish the neshama? When you are, as we say in Israel, a shvung, when you're on a roll, you're on a streak, doing the right thing. I went to Shachris and Mincha and Meirev and I gave Stukka and I went to Torah. You're on a streak, you feel power. When you make a mistake, what do you say? You say, who am I? Am I this guy? Am I that guy? You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're able to do because you said, I made this mistake. What do you need to do when you make a mistake? You know what you need to do? You need to reflect upon all the good things you did in your life. You need to think about all the people in your life that you have helped their eyes sparkle. You need to think of all the people in your life that you helped them smile. You need to think about all the good things you did. You need to strengthen yourself. When you make a mistake, you get confused. You think, I'm the bad guy. There's a beautiful teaching from Rav Nachman of Bratislav. It says in the pasuk, "V'eid ma'at vein rasha, v'zbenant al makom veinenu." What does the pasuk mean? There is a rasha, there's a wicked person. Who is a wicked person? Yourself. But when you see in yourself a wickedness, says the Torah, v'zbenant al makom, you have to think about the goodness that you have. Why? Because once you realize you have something good in you, once you realize you have something valuable in you, first of all, it gives meaning to who you are. You feel you have meaning. You have something to give the world. It gives you also energy. It gives you power. It gives you motivation to go do something because you realize I have something. I'm valuable, and it makes you not want to lose it. They did this study in America. They did a study. They asked people to participate in the study. The study was they told everyone, "We'll give you $100 if you walk 10,000 steps a day. 10,000 steps a day, you get $100." So then they did another study, different study, slightly different, very slightly different. They gave everybody $100 to begin with. They said you give back the $100 if you don't walk 10,000 steps a day. So which group do you think walked percentage-wise? Which group do you think the larger percentage walked? The second group. The second group. Because once you have the $100, you don't want to give it away. You already got it. You already got it. So once you realize that the Eibishter believes in you, and that's what a birthday is. Today is the birthday of Baal Shem Tov, the birthday of the Rebbe. The truth is, it's not just that Chai Elul was revealed as the day of the birthday of Baal Shem Tov. I'm getting there. Chaim V'rach.
So it's the first Rabbi. It's the first Rabbi today, right?
Yes,
his birthday
and Baal Shem Tov. It's not just that the Chai Elul was revealed as the birthday of Baal Shem Tov. It's that no one knew what a birthday was before the Baal Shem Tov. No one knew a birthday was special. The Baal Shem Tov was the one who revealed that a Baal Shem Tov, that a birthday is something special. The Rebbe says the most important day of your life is your birthday. Why is it the most important day of your life? I heard you like this, Rebbe Reber. I heard this. I don't know what the source of this prat is. What's pshat Rabbi Munasecha? Every day we start off our day, we say Meida Ani, then we say Rabbi Munasecha. Rabbi Munasecha means literally great is your faithfulness. It also means great is your faith. Great is your faithfulness means you give my neshama back to me, even though I patchkit it and I verschmutzkit it, you still give me back a neshama anyways. Another meaning of Rabbi Munasecha means great is your faith, Hashem. Hashem has faith? Yes. Hashem believes in David Yerushalmi. Hashem believes in Rabbi Newman. Hashem believes in Moshe Levin. Hashem believes in Josh Brenner. Hashem believes in Rocky Four. Hashem believes in you, and therefore Hashem took your neshama, of all neshamas in Gan Eden, and he decided your neshama has to leave because you got something to do over here. So the most important day of your life, the Rebbe says, is your birth, not Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur, not Simchas Torah. The most important day of your life is your birthday, because your birthday is a day that God said to you, you matter, you have a gift that no one else has, you have something to accomplish in the world. Just like people in our life, this is very important, and it should be mentioned. In general, something we should be conscious of. The way you look at people is the way they look at themselves. You have your spouse, your children, your friends. When you judge them favorably, you see good in them. That makes them think good about themselves. That's a fact. You could see it yourself. The same is also with our own self. The way you look at yourself, that's how you create your reality, by the way you look at yourself. So if you made a mistake, what do you need to do? You need to think about vidui meiser. You need to think of all the good things that you did. There's three parts of our life. There's Be'ayin Basa, there's the Atahelich, and then there is where you plan to go. What do you plan to be in 5 years? What do you plan to be in 10 years? How do you define that? What do you think you're going to do? It all starts with recognizing and giving value to who you are. There was a Lubavitcher boy who was on a plane with his mashpia, and they were going to Israel, and the boy started going on the plane asking people to put on tefillin. He says, hey, you want to put on tefillin? The guy says, I don't want to put on tefillin. He says, why don't you want to put on tefillin? So he says, why should I put on tefillin?
It's probably what the hell's tefillin? He's like, I don't know what this is.
So this boy didn't want to answer him because he felt he wasn't adequate to answer. You know, these people, these people have whatever. He says, come to my rabbi. My rabbi will explain to you. They go, and he leaves his seat, he goes over to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, why should I put on tefillin? So the rabbi says to him, first of all, what's your name? My name is Chaim Cohen. Chaim Cohen? You're a Kohen? Can you please give me a blessing? He says, why should I give you a blessing? Because a Kohen could give a blessing. I could give you a blessing? Yes, you're a Kohen. Please raise your hands, your holy hands, and please repeat after me. And he said to him, the Berecha, Hashem Yishmerecha, very slowly, not saying the words. The guy said the bracha to him, he gave him a bracha, and then he said to him, that this guy who gave the bracha, the Kohen, Chaim Cohen, then said, can I put on tefillin? And he put on that tefillin, and then a dam of tears came out of his eyes. Where did the dam of tears come from? Because he suddenly realized, I'm valuable, I'm important, I'm precious, I have a gift, I'm able to give brachas to people, I have something. This is Chayel. Chayel is about Chayes, about our life, being not just doing what Hashem says to do. You could do what Hashem wants you to what Hashem wants you to do because you're afraid of going to hell. You could think Hashem is like the Taliban. If you break Shabbos, you break kosher, He's going to zap you. It's possible to get your torah your whole life because you're afraid of this guy who's going to zap you. That's not Chayel. Chayel is a pshat. Chayel means you believe that God believes in you and God entrusts you. And God says, I have faith in you, and I have a mission for you, and it's something that only you could do. And the more you believe in yourself, and the more you trust yourself that God thinks about your goodness, and you have goodness, the more you're able to do more. It gives you power. So the last thing Yitzhahara wants us to do is to realize how good we are. Therefore, what does the Torah say this week? Vidoy Meiser. David Godes asked me a while ago, he says, how come in the Sephardic tradition, the way they sing, they say slichas every morning. We watch the Sephardim wake up an hour early every day to do slichas, and we get kapara just thinking about how tired they are, and they get kapara by actually waking up. So David asked me once. He said, "How come the Sephardim they sing the slichas? Chatanu lefanecha. It sounds like they're taunting God. You see God? Chatanu lefanecha. Ashkenazim aren't better. Ashkenazim have it worse. It's also a freilich nigga. Where does it come from? I don't know the answer to this question, but there's a word from Al Shem Tov. There's a word from Al Shem Tov. The word from Al Shem Tov goes like this. The word from Al Shem Tov, there's a chazan who used to sing a song for the confession prayer, and they brought the chazan of Al Shem Tov.
It's a new nosei, L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Chaim Rocky. The word is
Not a
freilich.
So we did several nigunim by the Baal Shem Tov. There's a special nigun by the Alpha Rebbe. The Tefillah Rebbe would bring for every moed. Chassidus moed, and also by a Bechlal. Ay, 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 mama, ya, mama, mama, Before we continue, everybody should know this is from Tehillim. Samech Bais 62, and it says, Ach le'elokim, only to the Eibishter. Daimi nafshi, my soul is silent. Ki mimenu tikvosi, from him is my hope.
And everyone said that
only him
is my Go ahead.
Only the Eibishter is my rock and my salvation. Mizgabi, my fortress. Lo emoit, I shall not falter.
Oh. So everyone said that it was a time of divine grace. Time of divine grace, we should sing this nigga. This is certainly a time of divine grace. Let's ask for things. Let's go. Everything is twice.
Two things. First of all, I want to say a groishi yashikoa to Yecheskel Moshe. He took upon himself not only to do the shopping, but to make sure that there would be Farbrengen by the Farbrengen. And everything he does. So when I was living in Crown Heights, after we left Ma'ale Adumim, because of my Rav, my Mashpia, told me at the time. It's an interesting story. He called me and he said, how's it going? I said, I'm in Tzemach Tzedek. I drive in from Mali to Mim. I pick up Chaim Shalom Deitch. We go to the mikveh. We drive. We pick up a few more Avreichim. We drive into the Tzemach Tzedek, and on the way, Chaim Shalom is either doing a nigun in himself, or he's learning, or he's bringing over something in the car. Every morning there was something. Or he's on the phone talking to a shliach in Uzbekistan who needs some kind of eitzah. Every single morning. It never stopped. We arrived in Tzemach Tzedek, and we learned Tanya. And I was the matargim for the English Balei Tshuvas who didn't... I was the one. And then after that, we would daven by the minyan that I had the schos to establish. Then after that, Rukutei Diburim, a little more chassidus, and then nigla. Till 2 o'clock, we'd all walk down to the kaisel, daven mincha. That was. Then I started working. I got a call right after 9/11 from Mala Gazinski, my Rav, my Mashpia, my dear friend. He says, how's it going? I said, I'm in Gan Eden. How does it get any better than this? I have all this in the morning, and then after 2 o'clock, and all my litigation, my legal work, I can deal with that from 2 o'clock till midnight. Couldn't get any better. He says, what are you doing in yeshiva, in Kollel? I said, I'm getting my smicha that I ever got when I was, should have gotten it. And he says, Reb David, I have some good news and I have some bad news. What do you want to hear first? I said, let's start with the bad news. He says, the bad news is you're not a lamdan. I know you think you are. You're not such a scholar to sit in Kollel and learn. He was the one who told me when I had come from Eretz Yisrael back to the States where I met him, because my wife's sister's husband had Macha Yedua, Yena Machla, the C word.
COVID?
And he ultimately, before COVID, and ultimately he was nifter. And so I was going back, and in the meantime I had met Rabbi Gazinski, and he said, I want you to go sit in Kollel Tzemach Tzedek to make up for those years when you left and you started learning, in a college and law school, v'chulei. I want you to sit and I want you to focus on all that chassidus that you didn't have the opportunity to learn. So I did for 10 years, 12 years. And I get this call from him and he says, good news, bad news. I said, give me the bad news. You're not a lamdan. You don't deserve to sit in Gan Eden and learn all day and get smicha. To say I was a bit disappointed,
that's the bad news,
would be an understatement. And he said, you want the good news? I said, yeah. And he said, the good news is you have a tafkid in this world that only you can do. Can you do it in Eretz Yisrael? I said, I can't. I'm a lawyer. I do public policy. I do national security work. I can't do it. He says, after 9/11, then you have to come back here. Went home, told my wife, who had plans for a huge moiset. We paid an architect a fortune to design for Jewish children and their families. I said, you want the good news, you want the bad news.
Well, so he told you couldn't live in Israel because that you weren't...
I couldn't do what I had to do.
He was needed. He was needed.
And my wife said, that's what the Rav says. We're going.
She had faith. She knew that's the right thing.
We packed our bags and we came. Ultimately, every single one of us has a tafkid, has a purpose. We say in Chassidus, the Rebbe taught us this and teaches us to this day. Why, by the way, when the Rebbe was big on celebrating birthdays, right? When he introduced this thing, and it wasn't a thing by Yidden. It it was a bissel not shaykh bechlal. You should celebrate your birthday. Why? One Nakuda by Chassidus explains it all. And this Nakuda is shaykh to the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. Because today, Chai Elul is the birthday not just of the Baal Shem Tov. Shnei HaMa'ayros HaGedolim. The simple concept that blows you away is you wouldn't exist, Rabbi Weber. You wouldn't have been born but for the fact that this world needed you. To tell Rabbi Newman and Rabbi the Shluchim, they get this. But for the rest of us, Moshe, you wouldn't have been born. And it's been a journey. But you wouldn't have been born even as that but for the fact that this world needed you. And needed you as a Yid. It's gewaltig. I mean, it's mind-boggling. When you think, if you think upon yourself that the entire Olam, the God's Olam, the whole world needed me. Not just to worship the Eibishter, but the Eibishter created me because something I had to contribute to this world was such a value added. Another one of those, San Francisco high-tech terms. That without me, without Rocky, without Moshe, without Yitzchak, the world simply couldn't have gone on. So what does it mean? Our tafkid is to understand what did the Eibishter give me as a kishroinus, as a prat. Remember the concept we talked about earlier on? The prat and the klal. What do I have to contribute to this world that makes the klal better? So just like a Farbrengen, even though I despise being with other people, I don't. You're right. I'm not antisocial. I'm asocial. I'm agnostic, as they say. I'm parv on this matter.
Much better.
But what do I have that allows me to make this world a better place? And it's not always a simple matter, right? It's a struggle. And we know that there are adolescents and there are young people who struggle with this ad kedei kach, that they despair legamrei, chas v'shalom, Rahman litzlan. But they shouldn't. Because if they simply understood that their life, their neshama brings something to this world that no one else can bring. Imagine that, Mendel. You don't think it. But the very fact that you exist, that you were born, that my little Sruli, my little Yisrael Avram, my Anikel, was born means that this world needs him. Without him, it couldn't continue. The Rebbe puts on us a huge achrayus, an obligation by Chassidim. Always do more, get better. There comes a point where you just say, enough, Rebbe. Who am I? But just remember this, and it doesn't take a lot. All it takes is maybe hugging another Yid. Maybe you were born just one day, one moment, 1 second to hug another Yid and make him feel good, or her. Don't hug another. That's it. That's all it takes.
Are you going to defend them if they do?
And then it becomes easy. Chaim.
Chaim.
To love a fellow. We'll give her 5 more minutes.
I'm not leaving.
Okay, good.
First of all, you should know Rabbi Greenberg sits and Farbrengen. No, you don't. Farbrengen.
Shmuley.
Yecheska, what do you have by place over there? Bring me something. Bring me a sausage. Before we continue with the niggin, I just want to. I did want to say one thing. 1 second. I wanted to say one thing. When I was in Crown Heights, when I came from Eretz Yisrael, I went to Crown Heights. Because I asked my mashpia, so where should I go if I have to go back and work? Where do I live? He said, at that point, this little guy was ready for yeshiva, cheder. And my daughter was just kind of getting started, so he said, you have to go to Crown Heights. There's no other place. You should go to Olei Torah, and your daughter shall go. So we moved to Crown Heights. And then if I tell you I'm not a city boy, I'm not a city boy. I mean, living in Crown Heights was a Mesiras Nefesh mamish. But the chinuch for my son was important.
And your daughter.
In the first apartment, before we bought our condo in Crown Heights, we lived in an apartment in 725 Eastern Parkway, the other side of Eastern Parkway from 770, but right there. And who was my neighbor right below me? Ultimately, Dr. Ruby Minkowitz, who's now he's the head of orthopedic surgery in, what's the place called? Kaiser Permanente in the valley. Not this valley, but the next valley, Antelope Valley.
Kaiser Permanente, I drive by it all the time. It's by Glendale. It's right there.
And he used to Farbrengen with us. We set up a sukkah. I remember one year it was raining and the sukkah was falling in on us, and he showed up in his greens. You know, he was doing his surgical thing, his scrubs, and we were Farbrengen. And he sat down and he Farbrengen with us. One day when I moved here, I see him going into La Gondola, or leaving La Gondola, and I was going in, and I don't remember which. And we see each other after, 15 years. And of course, you can't miss Ruby Minkowitz because he's like 6'6", a handsome fellow.
6'6", wow.
Yeah, he's a big boy. And we hugged. Okay, I hugged his waist. He hugged me from on top, and we talked, and he said, and he knew that I was doing, I was engaged in physical exercise. Let's call it that. So he says, I bike. I said, you do? He says, yeah, I bike with this group. This guy is like now 10, 15 years. Turns out he was biking with this guy, Rocky Ford. Yerachmiel Ford. I didn't know this guy from Adam. So I got a bicycle, we started biking together, and all I knew from this guy was he would take you out like 80 miles one direction, nice and easy, and then the 80 miles on the way back, he would turn on the turbo and piston, and you would, if you could hang on, it was the best you could do. And over time, this little group that we had another chassid from the valley and another chassid, became the Bais Bezalel Brothers.
But what's the bottom line of those?
Which is, don't get so... Don't get so anxious.
Last year, Chayil, you'd bring the Bais Bezalel. We know the pshat.
Don't get so anxious.
No word this year.
We're getting there. The one thing that I've learned from now my very dearest friend, and my mashpia Gashmi, Rocky Four, is the very idea that the tzibur matters. Because I wouldn't have been by Bais Chabad Beverlywood. I mean, we moved in this area, but why did we move in this area? We were living in an apartment on the other side of Pico. And my shul, my dearest friend Rabbi Reber, my dearest friend at the time. Now Rocky's my dearest friend. You're my second dearest friend. But we would Farbrengen by Rabbi Levin. I mean, it was, you couldn't find a more Hamish shul, Chassidus shul than Bais Bezalel. I met Rocky and he says, okay, so I need to, my landlord tells me he's giving his place to his daughter. I got to get out. I said, what do I do? My wife, he came to me and said, I need a big house so we can have Farbrengens. I need a pool so I can get my little exercise.
Pool.
I need this. I said, I need a back house so my children can come and visit.
I need a
I
Rolls
said,
Royce.
where are you going to get this? How do you get this in Los Angeles, Bichlal? So I called Rocky. I said, I need a place. Rocky said, okay, I have some ideas. And he gives me the idea of getting in touch with BK Botiach, Shmuley Botiach. You know the...
Don't mention it.
Don't mention it.
Just started.
Yeah. It's Chayal.
Anyway, a Hasidic Yid who davened by Rocky Shul. And he had a place, and he moved to Las Vegas, and he wanted to rent it out. So we entered a deal. We rented it with an option to buy. And I said, where do I daven? I daven by Rocky. He's over right here by the Friendship Center. One Shabbos I actually came to visit him, and I couldn't even find the place, Bichlal. My wife and I walked up and down Robertson, and we walked right past it. But I have to tell you, as much that I had by Bais Bezalel, not better. No, not better. Don't be so insecure. Different. But I got to tell you, and it wasn't so obvious at first, because when I first came, it was COVID, and Rabbi Greenberg at every Farbrengen would sit at the bima, right? He would separate himself. I don't know. And he would give this. I couldn't hear. I don't hear very well. So I always sit next to Rabbi Newman. I say, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? And sometimes he would say, I don't know what he said. And then once COVID had its day, or he had vaccines, I'm not sure which, he started to Farbrengen with us. And to Farbrengen with Rabbi Greenberg.
I got younger.
To Farbrengen with Rabbi Greenberg. To Farbrengen with Rabbi Newman.
With Moshe. Farbrengen with Moshe.
Moshe. First of all, no, Yitzhak doesn't stay. Don't point to him.
He stays with
Moshe,
the
we had a Farbrengen, I don't know, 2-3 Shabbosim ago.
Right. 3.
By the time Rocky showed up by Mincha, we were still Farbrengen.
That's proof. The Malam.
And I don't remember anything about that Shabbos Bichlal.
L'chaim.
There you go.
Well, a second. You talk with Rabbi Newman's brother.
That is
He's
his brother.
He's another brother.
I know he's another brother.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. No, sitting for Brian. I don't want to hear that. 1 second. What I do want to hear is Rabbi Wagshal.
I was just coming for l'chaim.
How did I first meet Rabbi Wagshal? He was a bacher by Rabbi Gazinski.
A lot of great names.
He took care of the
Children's.
the young people. What were they called?
He's still doing it. He's still doing it.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
Sivach Simat Teva, Shalom Teva Sukkah, Teva Nir, and Nickel for everyone. L'chaim.
Sivach Simas Teva, Shalom Teva Masuka. Chaim.
It's the mayor. That's
No.
Mayor, share something.
Rabbi Newman, share something. Bring a chair. There's a chair right there. First bring a chair. I don't like people standing next to me. Because I know my position in the world. You should be sitting and I should be standing. No, you should be standing. I don't know. But bring a chair. Come sit. By the way, how old is your little How old is he?
Wow.
My little Shrewy is now 4 months.
Hey, yeah.
No, at least 2. You said that's what a Farbrengen is. You have to talk about the cloud. So that's yayin. Yayin is the cloud.
Meir, look at what Meir.
That's the cloud. L'chaim. I enjoy listening to Rabbi Moshe Levin. There's so many stories.
We all do.
So much inspiration. L'chaim. Mali v'gadish.
Rocky, no? Zogt.
No, he's about to say something.
No, he needs Agdama.
Everything the Balabas says,
Yeah, you need Agdama.
you have to do.
He's about to say something.
Yeah, okay. Big Gashmi says you go first.
Yeah.
First of all, it's Rosh Chaim. No, you have a full kais. The bracha in the bottom of the kais, especially a kais
Bracha
cotton kolkach.
a bracha you say on a kais mali. The whole thing I'm saying now is one long bracha.
Ah.
So if I have an empty kais, I can't say the bracha.
Chaim.
I just came back from Eretz Yisrael. It was about a week and a half ago. It was an interesting trip. Ever since I started flying standby, I started learning more what bitachon is. You surrender, you realize there's a Hashem Mitzadei Gaver Kenanu. Hashem is the one that prepares. I once heard a word, which is this is just a Maimer HaMuzgar. I heard a word, there was a father, I don't remember the details, but there was a father or a relative that had to get to a bris, and he was sitting and waiting for the flight. It didn't look like he was going to be able to make the flight, and he was sitting completely relaxed. He wasn't pacing the terminal, and he wasn't saying Tillim and whatever, but he was relaxed, whatever's supposed to happen. And when he was asked, where do you get the strength? Where do you get this energy, this inspiration to have this tranquility? He says, from the brachas I say in the morning, the morning brachas. One of the brachas that we say is what? Roi ka'aretz ala mayim. So the Eibishter made the ground and where we're going to go. And if I feel that I'm going somewhere where the Eibishter didn't want me to go, and I think that I have a plan that's not supposed that it's going to work, but I take out the Eibishter from that whole equation, so then it's a bracha levatala. So when I say the bracha, and I say the bracha Baruch At Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, and I'm acknowledging that, and I'm realizing I realize that everything is the Eibishter's. The Eibishter is the one that führt der Welt. He's the one that orchestrates everything. The Eibishter is orchestrating everything, and that bracha that he says in the morning gives him the inspiration that even though he has a simcha, that we know by a simcha that you missed it. He has to be there, he wants to be there. Nevertheless, it allows him to sit peacefully and with tranquility and just accept whatever it is. So I didn't have that experience, but since I go a standby, you're not sure if you're going to get on the plane or not. And lately, the flights have been really full, and even the middle seats, that went out the window. So you can't, you taka, there's no space. And sometimes I waited several cycles. I started memorizing all the flight numbers and the times of the flights, exactly what was going on. So it's a whole different. I'm supposed to get on, I'll get on. If I'm not, then obviously I still have work to do here. Akapanim,
How many hours were you waiting?
I waited from 8 something till 12. One time I didn't even get on B'chlal. But the other time I waited till after maybe 12:55. I think the 12:55 flight.
4 hours.
Yeah, and even then it was mamish. The doors closed already. The doors, usually you don't see that because you have a ticket usually on the other side. The doors closed and then someone was supposed to come or didn't come, whatever the cheshbon was. And you see Ashkacha Pratis. You see it all orchestrated. It's all, and everybody has it. The Frierdiker Rebbe many times writes to the Maimarim, how do you see a likus? How do you have a perception of godliness? You see it in Ashkacha Pratis. I mean, we have flesh ekoim, we have physical eyes. We don't see the Dvar Hashem. It's like the story with the Maggid. He was able to see the divine energy that's giving the chayas, that's giving life, the life force that's making it exist. But we see that how everything is orchestrated. And you don't have to be such a mathematician to see it. It's sometimes so blaring. It screams at you. The connection. Today we learned a maimer in the morning, and here again you go into a maimer, and you can also go in with Ashkacha Pratis. When you look at the first maimer in Lekutei Torah, so the maimer was said Parshas Kisavei Chai Elul. I don't remember if it was Tavkuf Nun Vav or Tavkuf Nun Zayin. But that was the Maimer, and it was said Chai Elul, Shabbos Parshas Kisavei, and here we are learning Chai Elul, Parshas Kisavei, and you feel like it's the Chadashot, it's the newest, it's the news. This is what you got to be living with now. This is what you got to get present with now. And you learn the Maimer, and the Alter Rebbe really starts to prepare you for Rosh Hashanah. In general, when you look at the Maimarim of the Alter Rebbe, the way that Tzemach Tzedek put it together in the Lekutei Torah, you see it's a very interesting. There's a system, and things get introduced not only in the parsha but also the time of the year that this we're supposed to get present with something. Comes the time of the year, not Elul time, already from way back after Shavuos, Matoivu, Parshas Balak. What does the Alter Rebbe speak about Matoivu? He talks about 3 levels of tshuva. We haven't even, Elul's not even, you don't even see it on the calendar yet. It's a couple pages away. Right away, tshuva, it starts the preparation. The truth is the Rebbe Rashab says that the preparation for Rosh Hashanah begins from Rosh Hashanah. And there was a whole story with the sukkah and the laughing, the person, because he didn't have the Aveda. What's the next thing?
What's the story?
I don't like when I say stories. I don't like unless I look it over before. I don't remember all the details, and it's just stories get very confusing.
I withdraw the question.
What? but afterwards, I'm sure I'll tell you a few things, and you remind yourself of the story. I think it's in Torah Shalom, but Akopanim. So you see in Lekutei Torah, you see that it's not only just an insight, but it's actually it gets you present with what's going on. So what's the Maimer Kisavei? The Maimer now, this Maimer is all about, it starts with the Parsha, and it starts about the new covenant that we had with the Eibishter. We re-established the covenant with Hashem that we had by Matan Torah, by Chorev. And now, right before they were going into Eretz Yisrael, again that was reinstated a second time. It was necessary to reinstate that before we go into Eretz Yisrael. Why? We already had it when we had Matan Torah. There was something that was about to change. There was a transition that was about to take place when they went into Eretz Yisrael that required that to be that it has to be established. Again, that what was going to change when they went into Eretz Yisrael? When they go into Eretz Yisrael, now they had to deal with the land. They had to deal with Gashmias. From a perspective of awareness and being present, when you're in the desert and the man is falling from heaven, and you're able to have any taste you wanted with the man, and you were able to see how something so small can sustain you, and you were able to see how the wells traveled and all the miracles. What was the awareness that you had in the desert? Of course you see the Eibishter. I mean, what an idiot we would be not to see Hashem. You see it clearly. I don't think there was a discussion. There is there Hashem or not Hashem. How much in that? You saw it. You recognized it. It was real. You come into Eretz Yisrael, so now there's farming, and there's a way to farm, and how to plow, and what type of ox to get, and what type of this, and and if it rains, and it rains and not rains, and you have to dive in, and it's not coming. But whatever it is. It's all starting to be hidden. It's
Give
concealed.
us back the mun.
You don't.
We want the mun.
We want the mun. We don't see it, but that wasn't the kavanah. The kavanah was Eretz Yisrael. The kavanah was to be able to see through all the facade, to be able to see through all these illusions that you think is distracting, is obstructing your view.
Well, maybe we got
that there is the Eibishter's there within, and to see that in order to get that's what the Alter Rebbe in the Maimon gets us present with, and that's the happens in Rosh Hashanah before, just like before we go into Eretz Yisrael. The year Rosh Hashanah, we also have to get present with that. And when is the time to get present with that? Right before we make this covenant again, we re-establish and repair that relationship with Hashem, that intimate relationship we have, that maybe we got lost throughout the year. We reestablish that intimate relationship. L'chaim, l'chaim.
And when do we do it? Chai, the life of Elul. And what is Elul? Hamelech hu b'sof. The king comes, and before he goes to the Armon, the palace, and with all his externalities, his levushim, his garments, his tuvok, all of his hosts, all of his ministers, he comes to the field where we are every day during the year with all our shmutz, with all our gashmias, with all this. And when he sees us, he smiles. With all the shmutz, with the mud, the muck that we bring to the Eibishter all year long.
All this complaining and moaning.
And he doesn't want the highfalutin types. They're going to come by Tishrei and they're going to get the special seats because they paid for them with good behavior. But us, we're going to be by outside the Heichel. We're not even going to be inside the Armon. But Elul, he hugs us. He kisses us. He smiles at us. He's Myra Panov Shchokos. He shows us things that he never shows the tzaddikim. It's gewaltig zach. And that's why we blow the shofar every day during Elul. That shofar that we hear in Elul is more important than on Rosh Hashanah. Mamish. The Rebbe says the markar, the origin, the source of that shofar now, which is just a minhag, is higher than the shofar of Rosh Hashanah.
I have a question.
Gewaltig zach.
It's like
I have a question for you.
Araven Divrei Sefer. It's like the word. Araven Divrei Sefer. It's more
Meir?
Rabbi Meir.
Rabbi Meir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Hashem took away the mun because he wanted us to appreciate hard work and good things come to those who work hard for it and to not take things for granted? Do you think that's why Hashem took away the mun?
Get Aryeh a Chaim. Aryeh wants a Chaim.
It's a possibility.
There's no way that no.
What do you
Geller?
think? Why?
What? Yechaskel. Yechaskel. Where's my son?
He's right
that
over
we should
here.
make a dira.
Bring another bottle of wine.
If you grew up with this lingo,
Open
they-
it up.
to make a dira
No, we're
b'tachton.
gonna bring because
Make
I
a
want some
dwelling
more.
place
That's
for
a special
Hashem.
l'chaim to Aryeh. His granddaughter got married.
In other words,
We said l'chaim.
imagine you take a bird
3 rows down on
who
my.
doesn't know how to talk, you mention a couple words, and everybody
there.
makes such a big deal about it.
Ricky's there.
Why are you making a big deal? Go to the local bus station. You can hear a lot of
By the
people.
way,
Why the
Aryeh
bird is all of a sudden
is
so,
fighting a battle with
spectacular?
Rebbe
And the reason is because it's
put on him,
a novelty to see a person speak. It's not a
and it's
novelty.
a gewaltig zach because
The
it's
bird
a
is a
void zora mamish.
Hashem had this novelty,
And Aryeh's
He
been
wanted
battling
us
this
to
for
take
years and consistently.
It seems to
Ad kedei mesiras
obstruct
nefesh.
our view
No.
of him, and even there,
You invest that kind of
and
kishkes
connect
in
with
something
him.
that most
easy
people
to
don't want
be
to pay attention
a
to.
good boy if you're in studying all day.
Mesiras
But
nefesh,
no, you
mamish.
take what you studied and you
My son's going to
apply
bring a
it.
chaim, then we're going to say a
Even in
chaim
the
on it.
challenges and the darkness and the difficulty, you apply what you're
By the way,
really
who's this?
connected. How do you test that connection?
Sartuk
How do
over
you
here.
see how deep that runs?
Rabbi Goodman.
Who?
Rabbi Goodman.
Leaving with
What's
the
his last
man,
Rabbi Goodman.
you're in a state
Goodman?
of a state of surrender
What did
all
you
the
say?
time.
Goodman. Rabbi
That's
Goodman.
obvious.
So it's a challenge even
But
in
over
the
here,
darkest times.
Where is he?
You're not,
What does he
you,
do?
You recognize that even
Is he here somewhere? What does he do?
There's
Even
a
in
book.
the worst place.
There's a book called
Don't.
the Rebbe would tell people to study Shara B'Tachan. And they just redid it. They published it in Chayenu. They did a beautiful job. It's from one of the Go'inim, right? The Rabbeinu B'Chai.
Me?
Rabbeinu B'Chai. He wrote
the author's name.
The author's name. So you're talking about even before the Rishonim. You're talking about from the ones who wrote what they wrote. They saw it. It was almost like prophecy. They Ruach HaKodesh. They saw it. It was
Moses.
It's
They
like
were with
it's like being in a room where the light is on as opposed to feeling around and the light is off. They had clarity.
Who's the?
And he wrote a book called Shara B'Tachan. He wrote a book
You
called
have to do it, 'cause I won't be able to
and
see
one of
the top.
one of the sections of the book is called Shara B'Tachan, the gate of trust. And trust is something we all struggle with. And everybody on their, in their own level, in their own way.
Yeah.
And the Rebbe would encourage people to study that, to strengthen their trust in Hashem.
Keep it Rebbe.
When you go to the core of trusting in Hashem, when you think about it, it makes so much sense, and that's what the author writes there. What do you trust? Who do you trust? Your bank account? Your father?
I don't hear very well.
And he goes through all those things and shows why trusting in money makes no sense, because that has nothing to do with your not only because of that, because it has nothing to do with your health. You can have all the money in the world,
Health
but
is
if your health
everything.
is gone. And so you can't trust, and the doctors,
Emotion.
they're limited. He goes through all the things where it breaks down. So logically, who you trust
No.
exactly? It makes no sense. So you walk into
Are
the
you
office,
farting, Moshe?
looking at your bank account, looking at all that, and you're trusting all of this. But
Okay. So
why?
That's farty. Then you go first.
And once that clicks, so then you have a whole different perspective. It's a whole different perspective.
You're not going anywhere.
Of course you're going to trust in Hashem. What are we, idiots?
Bring the chair.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. Thank you.
My brother. I want to know where Chaim is.
What's up, Stu?
Yeah. Rabbi Sperling.
Shara B'Tachan.
I'm Sperling.
You don't know the fellow?
Maybe.
You know,
1 second.
after Me'av Esther,
Oh,
when they
1
asked me,
second.
so who's this guy, Moshe Levin? You know what I'm going to remember?
Never mind.
He's the guy that
You don't know
would
Rabbi
always ask people to stay by the Farbrengen a little longer. He was so much meyakeh the Farbrengen that he really, that's
No,
his
Rabbi,
that's
give
what
him
his
a
claim to fame is.
No, yeah.
Not all the, I'm sure you do a lot of beautiful things, but that's how it's going to be. Nechkak.
Get him a
Rabbi
Chaim.
Mary, you
Rabbi.
got to come to our other forbidden.
No, I don't want you to pour. You don't pour for
Yonatan?
yourself. Rabbi will
What's
pour for
Yonatan's
you.
last name?
For sure.
What's Yonatan's last
You
name?
want Geller
What's Yonatan's last name?
or you want white?
Small,
Ah.
right?
Yeah.
We have another Farbrengen we go to. Jonathan. What's Jonathan's last name? Mellinger. Thank you. Jonathan Mellinger. We have a bonfire.
I was
and
confused.
You should,
I thought
beautiful.
he
You
was
should
like
come.
Yeah.
Dr. Ramin. He's from us.
Let me know. Text me.
Yeah,
All right. Bye-bye.
He has my number.
All right. I'll hound
Totally
him. Don't worry.
Only a few people have my number.
Don't
He has
ever
my number.
wish me after. Okay, so
Ich denke, der chassidus, was man gelernt.
Rabbi Newman,
Thanks, we learned that part.
Gedaltig
Mit
gesagt.
meinem Mann.
Shabbos, what's the Shabbos?
Rabbi Newman, Gesaltig gesagt.
The Shabbos, right? The Shabbos.
I'm not here.
By the way, every
Did you see the new
one
Maimon from the Rebbe?
second, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Every
And that's on
Erev
Likkutei
Shabbos.
Torah. That's on
Right,
Likkutei Torah.
right.
One
And
second,
that
one
was
second,
also
one second,
the Rebbe,
one
there was a
second,
new
one
Maimon
second.
that came out. You would appreciate this. There was a new Maimon that came out. That what do you mean? How can a new Maimon come out? The Rebbe said it years ago. But as you know, the process of recording all of this, unfortunately, not everything came to us. A Maimon in Tavshin Chav Ches. You want the
68.
Hebrew dates? No, he wants the Hebrew dates. Even though maybe that's only from Nuns, but Chavs, maybe we can go both ways. But anyway, Tavshin Chav Ches, Ki Savei. There's the Maimon that they hanukkah that they found. So it's a new Maimon. It's a new Hebrew. I mean, the Rebbe said it then, and it's Bashkacha Pratis again. It's now. It's that's a Maimon. You got to learn the Shabbos Ki Savei, and that Maimon is on the Likkutei Torah that I spoke about before.
You learned the Maimon of the Rebbe?
I looked at it. I can't tell you.
You have to learn it.
There.
So every Erev Shabbos.
I'm sorry. You're focused. And nobody gets you off. You know exactly what I'm saying. You're going somewhere. The Klal and Prat, you're not going to leave us. We're going to, everybody before they leave is going to know what Klal and Prat is. And we're going to get tested. We're not going to be able to get to our cars if we don't know what Klal and Prat is.
By the way, Rabbi Newman, I love your brother.
We're going to know.
Where have you been all these
He
years?
rang with us in Shul a few weeks ago.
We sang Reb Zalman Zatopolsky's Niggin. You remember?
How's it go? 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 How's it go?
Rabbi Greenberg's about
No.
Menagin, no?
How's it go?
Sing the nigga now.
Reb Zalman Zatopolsky.
No, let's sing the nigga
No,
now.
Reb Zalman Zatopolsky. How?
It starts like the middle of a cappella.
But start.
No.
No.
That's a
I
kapella.
know, but Yecheskel, no.
Oh, yena, yidi moivei, yena, yidi moivei, you know this thing? I don't want anything. I'm asking if it's nine. It's
No.
Let me just say something about this niggin. You see, it goes over and over and over and over again, which you see that it allows for reflective thought. Because when a niggin changes constantly, you have to pay attention a little more. But when it goes over and over again, it allows for reflective thought to focus more on the an inyan machshava thought process. This Reb Zalman Zatopolsky was singing this niggin, and he was reviewing in his mind a maimer that he heard from the Rebbe Marash, a maimer that he heard from his Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash. And if you ever learned the Maimarim of the Rebbe Marash, it's very the structure of the Maimarim. It's a little shorter than the Maimarim of the Rebbe Rasha, but it's very, very structured. You know, with the question and the answer, the raya, and it's very, very structured. And he was going over the Maimar, and he was in deep dveikus. The Rebbe Rashab, who was there, saw it. This was on the Sfas Hayam. This was on the seashore. The Rebbe Rashab saw him and didn't disturb him. He saw he was in a meditative state. He didn't disturb him. But afterwards, he asked him which Maimer he was thinking about. And as soon as he asked him, the Reb Zalman broke out. It says the way it's described is he wasn't an emotional person. But as soon as the Rebbe Rashab, something triggered, and he went back there and he broke down crying, and he said there was this Maimer on that Shabbos. And when they lived that Maimer, he went back and I can only imagine, he was hearing the Rebbe Marash say the Maimer, and he was living with the Elikus that the Rebbe Marash was sharing with them at that time. And he was singing this niggin. So the niggin goes over and over, and you see, it repeats itself, a lot of times, and you can see that reflection.
There's a famous story.
We're digging to the end. I don't want to offend you.
There's a famous story.
Get it out. Now get it out. I know. This, Baltashatsu is when you want to go to the bathroom and you hold it back. You're not allowed to. It's an avera. What's worse, to need to go to the bathroom and holding yourself back, or wanting to say something and holding yourself back? Which one is harder? You tell me. Tell me, which
I
one
can
is
tell you
better?
before. It's going to the bathroom at 65 with an enlarged prostate. It's going to the bathroom.
I don't have that issue.
But it
yet.
is a question, but it is debatable.
No, by your age it's maybe debatable. By my age it's not debatable.
We're having a discussion.
It's not
about it.
debatable, Buklau.
That's funny.
The rest of you guys don't even know what we're talking about.
I don't want to know, you guys.
And you're exactly right. You don't even want to know.
But it's in oh, so you don't have to go to Canada.
The famous story by the Baal Shem Tov is that he has this Giui. And he asks Mashiach, Osimar, when are you coming? When you bring your well springs out to the world, and that's all chassidus. One of the things that we know as chassidim, and this is especially relevant to Yitzchak and to Moshe. That in every aspect of your life, every single aspect of your life, it has to be wikishiyafutsu mayanosecha chutza. That when is Mashiach going to come? When you have to fill him up again because he didn't take the time. No. Bring the Geller.
I have to help cup. All these stories, I have to help cup. Otherwise, it'll get confusing for me. Your stories are very. I have to concentrate. This is gonna distract me.
Mind you, the cup dropped when you said Mashiach. Just saying.
Just pointing that out.
Just pointing it out.
Good.
That when every aspect of your life, in every aspect of your life, kishiyafutsu, that you bring out mayanosecho, the well springs of chassidus, achutza, to the world. It's not enough that you know. It's not enough that you sit every Shabbos, you come early and you sit and learn with Rabbi. You have to do something.
We're not picking tickets.
What does it mean? You have to start a chavrusa with other yidden at your work. Whatever it is.
If they let him in.
Well, but it's even more push-it than that. By the way, Moshe, it's even more push-it than that.
They locked him out.
No, it's even more push-it than that. So we were connected. I was saying earlier, I was connected to Dr. Ruby Minkowitz, the chief of orthopedic surgery at Kaiser whatever. I would never go there, but I would, whatever. Right, in Antelope Valley. And he introduces me to this guy. And from that becomes Bikes, Beards, and Brothers. And we have a WhatsApp.
We actually don't have a WhatsApp, but that's a. We
And
don't have a WhatsApp. We have a
single-
Signal.
Whatever, right, Signal now. Every single Erev Shabbos, every single Erev Shabbos, every single Yom Tov, we bring over a Devar Torah. Ad Kedei Kak, there was even a time that we rode to some, I don't remember where it was, but it was COVID time and no one was supposed to be together, and we rode to the top of the Hollywood sign, Erev Pesach, I don't know when it was.
Rosh
Chodesh Nisan. And we brought we brought yayin, we brought hamotzi, we washed, we had a whole Farbrengen up there. But we bring over Devar Torah.
The Hollywood sign.
Confuse people.
It's not possible that I should ride with this guy begashmius in physicality and we don't bring it down to ruchnius.
Wait a second.
By Chassidim, the Indian is, you'll in a minute, this is Achona.
Okay. It was a teaser.
This is Akdoma.
It was a teaser.
Would you spill on yours?
No, nothing. No.
It's,
I just pished.
He's saturated. Saturated with l'chaim. He's saturated
The fact is that every single thing we do in this physical world, and we should do a lot, al pi nigla and al pi chassidus. Rabbi didn't want to hear about al pi nigla. Al pi nigla, it says, according to halacha, the Rambam, we learn all the time that we should exercise before we even start the day. I didn't ask you for a commentary. I didn't ask you for a commentary.
I just want to say one thing.
No.
One thing.
No.
I'm done. Last thing to say.
Did I ask? 1 second. I want to know, did I ask for the rabbi to respond?
I'll say l'chaim. Give me 30 seconds. Say
l'chaim.
l'chaim.
I'll respond to, yeah.
Reb David was at...
No, first say l'chaim.
Chaim Reb David.
And the bracha and the schus to speak in the middle of what I'm saying is in the bottom of the case.
Chaim, Pru Revu. Pru Revu. The words I've told you is Pru Revu, right? Pru Revu.
Chaim. Okay. Take it for bison.
Reb David.
Yechazkel, where's my Yechazkel?
Listen.
You went to buy more stuff.
Listen to this, Meiser. The Meir Dika Meiser. Reb David needed a bracha for children. He asked the Rebbe for a bracha. The Rebbe told him he should learn Taras Mishpacha. So he understood Taras Mishpacha means he should learn the Rambam. He should learn the Rambam. He should learn Taras Mishpacha. He should learn the Rambam Taras Mishpacha. He should learn the Kesem Mishnah, the Kutzas, the Minchas Chinuch Taras Mishpacha. He should go, And then he realized that the Rebbe wanted him to do something practical, down to earth, to learn the halachas. Right? I'm saying it correct so far?
Yeah, Adkan.
And Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe told him, you'll have Pru Revu. The Rebbe said, you'll have Pru Revu. Pru Revu.
That's why we had two.
Pru Revu is the words the Rebbe said, and Pru Revu, the mitzvah Pru Revu is to have a son and a daughter. Pru mitzvah son and daughter. And that's, Baruch Hashem, he was blessed with a son and daughter. And not only is he blessed with a son and daughter, but it says in Shulchan Aruch that you don't really fully fulfill the mitzvah Pru Revu until your children have children. It's Shulchan Aruch.
I know, but
So Baruch Hashem, Yechazkel Baruch Hashem had Baruch Hashem a baby this year, and now this coming year, you need to have a simcha by your daughter, Mitzvah Hashem.
Amen.
That's the pshat that is bracha peruvu. But my point is not just for you, Rabbi David. My point is that for all of us, that the Rebbe means something practical. The Rebbe means something begashmis, physically, really, literally. You could explain the Rebbe's words in many different ways, but there's one word you can't explain, which is the number one word the Rebbe uses. The number one word that the Alter Rebbe used. The number one word that the Alter Rebbe used was, in Tanya, what's number one? You could Google it. What's Mamish? Mamish has to be real. Not Rambams, Tesem Mishnah, Pitzach Shulchan. What does it actually mean? Taras Mishpacha. Practically, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, what it actually means. So, and that's how the brachas come down. The brachas come down by focusing on what the Rebbe wants us to do. Like you did tonight, made a Farbrengen. You didn't just say a Farbrengen. You said there'd be flesh, and 3 different kinds of flesh. There'd be chicken, and burgers, and hot dogs. And that's how it happens. And sausages. That's how executive chef. With eggs also, and pickles if you want to know.
I didn't get the egg.
You eat the eggs, right?
Of course.
We're sitting too far from the barbecue.
Listen, the bottom line is that we have to realize that Chayelu means that there's growth, because Chay means life, and the Rebbe says life means growth. If you're alive, it means you grow. If you're into it, if you're alive, the best sign of life is growth. So what the Rebbe wants from us tonight, what the Eibusher wants from us tonight, is it should be life, and life means growth. Growth in our Torah, growth in our davening, growth in our chesed, in a way that's definable. A way that's definable.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Sit. Oh, I'm not done yet. Sit. You ate food? 1 second. By the way, I'm a businessman.
Of course you are.
No, when Rabbi Kaczynski
You're
called
a big-time
me,
lawyer.
When Rabbi Kaczynski called me and said,